So here is the cover, fresh meat, and there are 24 chapters, and I'm going to be breaking it down into 4 chapters each, 6 parts. That way I won't bore y'all with one long video. So sit back and I hope you enjoy. Chapter 1. "Please, stop this," a woman screamed. "Why are you doing this to me? Why?" The woman's voice contained deep, excruciating pain, and her screams were followed by heavy pounding. A grunting sound, appearing to belong to a man, followed the woman's screams of pain and agony. A room, barely visible behind a door that was slightly ajar. The only thing that could be seen was light brown wallpaper coated in blood and a table. The room seemed to be some kind of study. The light cast 2 shadows on the wall. One shadow was seen violently beating the other with some blunt object. The woman cried out in agony at the sound of what appeared to be the snapping of bones. "I'll break every goddamn bone in your body, you fucking bitch," came the very cold, unsympathetic voice of her tormentor, a man. The horrific pleas and cries of the woman soon turned into a sick gagging sound. Blood splattered all over the already blood-stained walls. With one last sickening thud, the body hit the floor. The woman stared lifelessly out the barely open door. She was completely covered in blood. An outline of the man stood over her and laughed. Suddenly, his bone-chilling laugh was replaced by the gentle whistling of a bird. And with that, a young girl jolted awake. "God, I wish these dreams would stop," she said, wiping tears as they ran down her face. After turning off her singing birdie alarm on her phone, she made her way across the room and opened her bedroom curtains to let the morning sunshine in. This girl's room was covered in posters and pictures of friends and boy bands. In the left corner sat a large armoire, and in the corner on the other side of the room sat a large, matching white chestnut dresser and desk. "Seraphina, breakfast," the voice of an elderly lady called up to her. "Okay, Grandma, I'm on my way," she replied. She went over to the large mirror on her dresser and ran her hand through her silky chocolate and vanilla striped hair. A young girl of about 14 stared back at her in the mirror. She wiped the fresh tears out of her bright green eyes before heading downstairs. As Seraphina made her way into the kitchen, she saw her grandmother hunkered over the stove. The smell of pancakes rose up out of the air. "Good morning, Seraphina. How did you sleep?" she asked cheerfully, without turning around. "Okay," Seraphina lied. "I don't know how you're so perky in the morning, Grandma." "I guess I'm just a morning person," her grandmother replied. Seraphina's grandmother, Lilith Mayweather, was short with grayish-white hair and brown eyes. She had always been considered the fun-loving type by Seraphina and her friends. In fact, Lilith Mayweather was the only elderly person Seraphina knew that played video games. "By the way, dear, go wake up Savannah for me, would you?" As Seraphina made her way down the hallway, she heard her grandmother singing, "Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day." Seraphina couldn't hold back a laugh. Only Grandma, she thought, her favorite good morning song. Seraphina reached the end of the hall and opened the door on her right. She stepped into a brightly decorated room with pink and white walls, with flowers painted on them. The entire room was covered in pink headboard, pink dresser, pink Barbie bedspread, and pink and white Barbie TV. Seraphina walked over to the bed and smiled warmly down at the little girl in it. She reached down and gave her little sister a kiss on the cheek while running her hand through the little girl's blonde hair. Slowly, the little girl began to open her eyes. "Good morning, Seraphina," she said. "Good morning, Savannah. Grandma has breakfast ready. I don't think you want to miss it. She's making your favorite," Seraphina said. "Chocolate chip pancakes," Savannah cried, jumping out of bed and running past Seraphina and into the kitchen. Savannah already had her plate loaded down by the time Seraphina got back. "I don't know how you managed to do it, Grandma," Seraphina said as she walked back into the kitchen. "I've never seen Savannah get so excited about food the way she does over your pancakes," Seraphina laughed. "I take care of my girl, don't I?" Lilith said, giving Savannah a wink. "Grandma makes the best pancakes," Savannah said, maple syrup dribbling down her chin. Just then, the front door burst open, and in walked a tall, thin, gray-haired man, who was about 75. He was carrying a large black briefcase. "Morning, girls," he said as he plopped his briefcase down on the kitchen table. By the way, I say syrup, not syrup. I don't know why I said syrup. I always say syrup. I'm a country girl. And away we go. "Morning, Grandpa," Seraphina and Savannah said together. "Did the town make another generous donation to our cause, Lou dear?" Lilith asked. "They sure did, Lilith, my sweet. Donated 250 pounds of meat, they did," Lou replied. "I don't know what we would possibly do without the help of those nice people," Lilith said. "The town understands how hard maintaining an exotic animal sanctuary can be, and they want to thank me for my services, both on and off the battlefield," he replied. "Anyway, how is my little genius doing on her science project?" he asked. "I'm definitely going to get an A+, but I don't think I'm really a genius, Grandpa," Seraphina replied. "Nonsense, girl. You're the smartest girl in your entire school," he said. What is your IQ again, honey?" "I don't know, like 160 or something," Seraphina replied. "Damn, I couldn't even graduate high school. That's why I joined the Marines," Lou said with an amusing laugh. "Let's just hope Milky Way doesn't get so smart that she doesn't know how to get out of the rain," Savannah said, giggling. "Who?" Lou and Lilith asked together. "That's what a lot of the kids at school call me due to my hair. Chocolate caramel colored hair," Seraphina replied. Savannah let out a giggle. "Young lady, that wasn't even a funny remark you just made," Lilith replied sternly. "What remark?" Savannah asked. "You saying that your sister didn't know how to get out of the rain," Lilith replied. "We do not make fun of each other in this house. Now tell your sister you're sorry," she said sternly. "Come on, I was just playing," Savannah said, making a pouting face. "I know, honey, but that's still not something you should be saying about your sister," Lou replied. "That's right. Now apologize," Lilith said sternly. "I'm sorry, Seraphina. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings," Savannah said, lowering her eyes to the floor. "It's okay. It's not anything I haven't heard before," Seraphina said, giving her a gentle smile. "Now you two better hurry or you'll miss your bus," Lou said as he glanced at the clock above the stove. "Okay, come on, Right behind you, Savannah replied, jumping up. God, it was only a joke, and Grandma and Grandpa acted like I was cussing you out, she whined as they walked down the driveway. Oh, you know how they get over stuff like that, Seraphina said. Yeah, I know. They go completely overboard, Seraphina replied, rolling her eyes. I just love how perky these kids are in the morning, Seraphina grumbled as the bus roared to a screeching halt, and the sound of screams and laughter filled the air. As soon as she stepped on the bus, she was hit smack dab in the head with a paper wad. Damn, she muttered under her breath. She and Savannah took their usual seats in the back. So are you doing anything interesting in your class today, Savannah? Seraphina asked. Actually, yeah, we're having a party for my teacher. It's her birthday. That's nice, Seraphina replied. Yeah, what about you? I'm having a big geometry test today. I wish my class would have a party, Seraphina said. Yeah, but you're the smart one. Your classes aren't supposed to be easy. Thanks for reminding me, Savannah, she said with a laugh. 10 minutes later, the bus roared to a halt in front of Maple Ridge Elementary. Have fun, Seraphina called as Savannah made her way toward the front of the bus. Don't worry, I will. And I'll be thinking about you when we're having cake and ice cream, Savannah said in a taunting manner. Seraphina put her head back against the seat and closed her eyes as the bus started up again. She doesn't know how lucky she is not to have a care in the world, Seraphina thought. She was about to drift off to sleep when the bus came to a screeching halt. Seraphina let out a long sigh as she made her way off the bus. Don't you just love battling the morning crowd in the hallway? A tall, dark-haired girl said as Seraphina tried to get to her locker. Hey, Misty, Seraphina said. So, are you ready for the big geometry test today, genius? Misty asked. Oh, it's way too early to be thinking about math, Seraphina groaned. Ah, you'll do fine. You'll score higher than everybody else, just like you do every time, Misty replied. I don't know about that now, Seraphina said. I'm sure I'll do well, but I can't guarantee that I'll kick its ass that bad, Seraphina said with a grin, or with a laugh. Well, at least there's one positive thing about having geometry first. Yeah? What's that? Misty asked. Logan Dane's in there, Seraphina said, blushing. Oh, good Lord, are you still into him? Misty asked. I can't help it, Misty. There's just something about him. You do know that, like all the girls in this school, are chasing and slobbering over him, don't you? Well, it's not too hard to see why. He's the school star. Rich, good-looking, captain of the basketball team. The guy's got it all. I heard he's even got 6 colleges offering him 4 scholarships, Seraphina said. Yeah, but that's only because of his dad, Misty said. Everybody wants to make sure that the son of the famous Tony Dane gets the best life has to offer. You sound like you're jealous, Misty, Seraphina said in a playful manner. No, I'm not a bit jealous. Logan's a good guy. I'm just saying you can pretty much do whatever you want as long as you have money in the bank. Just then the bell rang for first period. Good luck, Misty said, waving her fingers as Seraphina made her way to geometry. Seraphina took her usual seat at the back of the class. Next to her sat a tall boy with light brown hair and green eyes. Yo, Miss Mayweather, you gonna ace this test and make the rest of us feel bad when we fail? He asked teasingly. Seraphina gave him a slight smile. Maybe, Logan, she replied playfully. As the second bell rang for class to start, in walked Miss Trill, a middle-aged, stone-looking woman wearing a bright red dress and matching high heels. I hope everybody studied hard and is ready for today's test, she said as she passed them out. She turned her gaze quickly to Seraphina and gave her a little wink. I know you'll do great, Seraphina, she said. Seraphina's face turned bright red and she lowered her eyes to the floor, trying not to draw attention to herself. An hour later, she was standing by her locker when Misty walked up to her. So, how'd you do? She asked. The usual, Seraphina muttered. You aced it then, huh? Yeah, probably. You mean you weren't distracted by Logan? And you were able to concentrate even though he was sitting right beside you? Misty asked with a laugh. Seraphina laughed and rolled her eyes. You act like I'm head over heels in love with him, she said. Aw, come on, don't pretend that you don't want him, Misty replied with a grin. Seraphina blushed. I didn't say I wanted him, Misty. I just think he's kind of cool. He seems like a real down-to-earth, sweet guy, Seraphina replied. After lunch, Seraphina and Misty had biology class together. Instead of a normal classroom lined with rows of student desks, this room had 6 tables with 4 students at each one. Misty and Seraphina sat at the table closest to the door that led outside. As Misty put it, it was great for seeing what was going on in the outside world. Across from Seraphina sat a tall, blonde, preppy-looking girl wearing a cheerleader uniform. This was Seraphina's other best friend, Dawn Cherry. Across from Misty sat an athletic-looking boy wearing a black tracksuit. This is Drew Mitchell, Dawn's boyfriend. I see you're already in the preppy spirit, Dawn, even though the game isn't until tomorrow evening, Seraphina said. Yeah, well, you gotta look your best every day. Besides, we're having pictures made on the field right after school, Dawn said. By the way, why does it always smell like this room has been painted in alcohol? She asked, wrinkling her nose in disgust. Well, they douse the specimens in alcohol to keep them sterilized, Seraphina said. Of course you would know that, Miss Zookeeper, Drew said in a taunting but playful manner. Well, what are your plans after high school, Drew? I don't think you'll make a living out of being captain of the football team. I don't know about that, Seraphina. I may end up being an all-star wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers by the time you get out of college, Drew said, admiring his muscles. Seraphina rolled her eyes. Well, if you're going to go pro, you're going to have to learn how to catch more than a 15-yard pass. Misty laughed. Seraphina gave her a high five. Drew's face grew as red as a tomato. I'm the best receiver in all of Southwest Nevada with a record of 29 touchdowns and 1,711 rushing yards to date. I'm a freaking prodigy, he said, beaming. Seraphina and Misty took one glance at each other and burst out laughing. All right, guys, today we are going to dissect pig hearts. A tall man with gray hair and glasses said as he came out of the supply closet carrying 6 trays. This was Coach G. Unlike Miss Trill, Coach G had a very laid-back and relaxed personality. He always tried to make his classes as fun and interesting as he could. Dawn made a face of disgust as Coach G set a large pig heart on their table. I don't know why we have to do this nasty shit. Seraphina's the only one going on for some kind of job that involves cutting open animal organs, isn't she? Dawn whispered. Come on. Don't you think this is interesting, Dawn? Getting to see how animals' bodies work, Seraphina said. No, people like me are always busy with more important matters. We're too busy to worry about cutting open dead animals. We're not surgeons, Dawn replied. Dawn, I hope you know that the world is not going to fall at your feet just because you're prom queen or captain of the cheer squad, Or whatever, Seraphina said. Dawn raised her eyebrows in surprise. You really think I'm going to be prom queen? She asked, beaming. Well, how the hell should I know? That's not for another 2 years, Seraphina said. Oh, I'm not so sure about that, Dawn replied. Word is that Carter Davis is going to ask me to prom this year. Carter Davis? He's a senior, Seraphina cried. You think your boyfriend's really going to let you hook up with a senior? He's got an open mind, don't you, Drew? Dawn asked, cuddling him in a hug. Yeah, I guess, he replied with a not so thrilled with the idea kind of tone. As usual, Seraphina had to be the one to do all the work on the dissection. I know I'm the brains of the bunch, but one of you could at least try to help, Seraphina said. You're the genius with a zoo in your backyard, Dawn replied. Good point, Dawn, Seraphina replied sarcastically, rolling her eyes. Oh, thank God school's over, she cried as she walked through her front door. So, the genius didn't have fun at school today, Savannah asked. It was all right. Nothing to brag about, Seraphina said. Actually, something funny happened in biology. What was that? Savannah asked. We dissected pig hearts today, and one of the boys in my group pressed down on the heart, and it sent blood and juice all over my friend Dawn's cheerleading outfit. It was hysterical, Seraphina cried, laughing. Ew, nasty, Savannah replied, making a gagging sound. Anyway, how'd your party go today in class? It was great. We spent almost all of class playing games and eating cake, Savannah teased. Seraphina slumped her shoulders. You don't know how lucky you are, she said. Oh, I think I do. I'm thankful that I'm not the one with a brain the size of a watermelon who has nothing better to do than study math all day, Savannah said. Seraphina laughed. Just then the grandma walked into the room. Having fun? She asked. I guess you could put it that way, Seraphina said. Seraphina, I hope you remembered that we are having some very important people coming Saturday for a tour of our sanctuary, so I hope you're ready, Lilith said. Don't worry, Grandma, I'm ready for them, Seraphina said. Chapter 2. The next morning, Seraphina woke up around 6:30. She spent nearly an hour getting dressed and prepared for the tour. She went downstairs about 7:30. Everyone else was already sitting at the kitchen table when Seraphina walked in the room. Morning, everyone. I see that I'm the last of the table. I hope you still set a plate for me, she said, grinning. Her grandparents didn't even crack a smile. Seraphina, today is not the day for your jokes, Lou said. That's right, you have to act professional today. We want these people to take us seriously, Lilith said. Lilith loaded their plates with bacon and eggs. Now hurry up and eat. Our guests will be here in 30 minutes. So why are these people so important, Grandpa? Savannah asked. Well, dear, there are reporters from the news coming, people from the exotic wildlife refuge, and even the mayor of the city is coming, he said. You mean we're going to be on the news? Savannah cried in excitement. It's possible, dear, but you're going to have to be a big girl and be serious when they show up, Lilith said. A few minutes later, there came a knock at the door. Okay, they're here, Lou said. As he opened the door, a tall young woman holding a microphone introduced herself. Good morning, sir. My name is Daphne Meadows, and I'm with Channel 6 News, she said. Well, nice to meet you. Come on in, everybody, Lou replied. Seraphina was surprised. There has to be at least 30 people here, she said. She and Savannah stood back while their grandparents talked to a short, beefy man who was wearing a black and white suit. Seraphina recognized him instantly. He was the mayor of Maple Ridge. Seraphina, Savannah, come here, Lou called to them. I want you to meet Blake Tarrant, the mayor of this fine city, he said. It's a pleasure, Mr. Tarrant, Seraphina said, shaking his hand. Oh no, the pleasure's all mine. I've heard quite a bit about you, Seraphina, he said. Really? She asked. Oh yes, I heard you were the smartest girl in your school. Seraphina blushed. I don't know about all of that now, she said quietly. Seraphina doesn't like to draw attention to herself, Lilith said. She's very humble about her talents. Well, that is the best way to be. At least she isn't one of these stuck-up types, the mayor replied. Yes, we have raised her to be a civilized and well-mannered young lady who is very grateful for all of her blessings and who takes nothing for granted, Lilith said. Yes, indeed. I'd say you have raised her to be a fine young lady, the mayor replied. So, are you going to give us a grand tour? Yes, sir. I'm going to do my best to make this an interesting experience for all of you, Seraphina said. 10 minutes later, Seraphina led them out the back door, through the large wooden double doors, to a large open area with many different fenced-in areas. They ranged from grassy plains to thick jungle-looking habitats. Welcome all to the Mayweather Wildlife Reserve, Seraphina said, spreading her arms out wide. As you can see, we have different environments for the different species we have, she said. Each habitat has 20 acres for the animals to enjoy, and I'll be starting off with our African savanna grasslands habitats, and then we'll head over toward the forested area, Seraphina said, nodding toward the forest in the background. The first stop Seraphina made was the dry, grassy lion habitat. A large rock den was visible in the distance. This is the den we built for the lions, she explained. A young woman in the crowd made a gesture to ask a question. Seraphina, my name is Lacey, and I'm with the National Wildlife Reserve, and I was just wondering what you used to make that structure look so realistic. Well, Lacey, we made it out of concrete to make it look as natural as possible, Seraphina replied. We put a lot of work into it because we want all the animals here to feel like they are in their natural habitats. Suddenly, a large female lion and cub came into view. This is our lioness, Nala, and her cub, which we call Little Princess because she's the only cub, Seraphina explained. A large male lion came out of the den and made his way toward the crowd. And there's our man, who we call Prince, she said. The sound of cameras clicking caught the large cat's attention. It stared out curiously as people snapped picture after picture. Suddenly, he let out a big yawn and licked his lips. Anybody want to go in for the close-up? Seraphina joked. Next, Seraphina led them to another grassy area. Now here, ladies and gentlemen, is our hyena habitat, she said. Wow, look at all of them. There must be at least 20 of those things, a tourist said. The spotted hyena, also known as the laughing hyena, live together in large families known as clans, Seraphina said. Although the hyena habitat is the same as the lions, these two species do not get along with each other very well. The flashes and clicks of the cameras drew the attention of the hyenas. A couple of them approached the crowd curiously. Seraphina opened the fence door and went inside and knelt down beside them. She began to gently stroke them from head to tail. Now, although hyenas are not very big, they have an incredible bite force. In fact, hyenas are able to crush and digest bones. Seraphina let them take a few more shots before taking them to the African wild dog habitat. Now here we have painted dogs, an endangered species of the African savanna, Seraphina said. Did you call me? Savannah asked, stepping out of the back of the crowd. Savannah, what are you doing? Seraphina asked. I decided to tag along to make sure you don't screw this up, she said. The entire crowd turned to stare at Seraphina. She gave the crowd a slight nervous smile. "I apologize, everybody. My sister likes to kid around." Seraphina blushed. "Savannah, what did Grandma tell you about today?" "I don't know." "What?" Savannah asked innocently. "Didn't Grandma tell you to be on your best behavior?" "Yeah, I guess so," Savannah said, slumping her shoulders and walking back toward the house. "Again, I'm sorry, everyone. Now, if you'll all follow me, we'll head into the forest," Seraphina said. The first enclosure they came to housed a large white Siberian tiger. It was gently licking a cub on the head. "This is our tigress Blizzard and her baby Whitey," Seraphina said. "Blizzard and her baby are our newest additions. We got her and the cub about 6 months ago." "Does having to look after all these different species create more stress for you?" Daphne asked. "Sometimes it can be difficult when working with so many different animals, but our overall goal is to make sure these animals are happy and healthy and feel like they are at home here," Seraphina replied. "Do you take any safety precautions when going into the animals' enclosures?" Daphne asked. "Well, our motto is to treat these animals like a loaded gun. I usually have a stun gun on hand just in case something was to happen, and when one of the animals were to turn on me," Seraphina replied. "Do you ever let your little sister go in with the animals?" Daphne asked. "Only when me or my grandparents are with her. She is never allowed to come up here by herself," Seraphina said. Next, she led them to the coyotes, foxes, and jaguars. Finally, after another hour, Seraphina announced that they had reached the end of the tour. "I hope everyone here enjoyed their time at our sanctuary and got to see what it's like to work with these beautiful creatures," she said. Suddenly, Lacey spoke up. "Miss Mayweather, I have to tell you that I am very impressed by everything you have presented here today." "Thank you, Miss Lacey. That really means a lot to hear that. Here at the Mayweather Wildlife Reserve, we put a lot of hard work into what we do," Seraphina replied. "Now, if everyone will follow me back to the house, my grandparents have prepared some snacks and refreshments for you all," she said as they made their way back down the hill. "Did my granddaughter give a good presentation of our facility?" Lou asked when they entered the door. Everyone nodded enthusiastically. "She was an excellent guide, a very smart young lady. You did good, Lou," the mayor replied. "That's what we always like to hear," Lilith said. "We have some snacks and tea in the dining room, so you can all help yourselves," she said. Daphne and her cameraman walked up to Lou and Lilith. "Would you be willing to participate in a short interview?" she asked. "Yeah, I believe we can do that," Lou replied. "We've been given a tour of your facility, and I was surprised at how clean and organized you keep the enclosures. What actions do you take to keep this facility as clean as you do?" "Well, the credit for that goes to our granddaughter, Seraphina. She goes around to each animal's enclosure and cleans it and makes it a comfortable home for our animals," Lilith said. "Do you have donations to help you with these animals?" "Yes. The town of Maple Ridge has been very generous, and the mayor here has done everything he can to help," Lou replied. "How often do you get new animals?" "Not very often, actually. In fact, the Siberian tigers are the only new animals we've acquired in the last 2 years," Lilith said. "Do you have any plans to add to your facility in the long run, or do you plan on keeping it the way it is?" "We are definitely in no hurry to add on, but once our granddaughter gets her degree in zoology, we will turn this place over to her and she may add on. But right now we're going to keep things the way they are," Lilith replied. Then Daphne thanked them for their time and shook their hands. Before long, everyone started to disperse. The last remaining person walked up to Lou. Seraphina recognized her instantly. It was Lacey from the National Wildlife Reserve. Good morning, sir. My name is Lacey Waters, and I work for the National Wildlife Reserve. Instantly, Lou's eyes lit up. It is a real pleasure having you take time to come visit our facility, Lou said, shaking her hand. I do hope that you enjoyed your time here. This trip has been an amazing experience, and it's so inspiring to see all the hard work and dedication that you all put into this, Lacey said. When you feel that special passion in your heart for something, it's best to chase after it rather than let it slip away, Lilith said. I believe that it was our destiny to start this sanctuary. Our dreams have definitely come true. Lacey smiled and said, Well, I know one thing. I'm definitely going to put in a good word for you to my associates. I wouldn't be surprised if your facility becomes one of the top wild animal facilities in the country, she said. Lilith could not control her emotions as tears came to her eyes. My wife is very emotional, Lou replied. That's all right. It's good to let your emotions out. Don't keep 'em bottled up, Lacey said. Lilith smiled at her. I better head out now. It's a pleasure to meet all of you, Lacey said as she shook each of their hands. I'm so proud of you girls, Lou said after she left, especially you, Seraphina. You really acted like a professional out there today, he said. Our baby's growing up, Lilith said, smiling at Lou. It won't be long, Seraphina, and you'll be doing this for a living, supporting a family of your own. I hope that your grandpa and I are still around to see that day come. Of course you will. You guys are going to live forever, Seraphina replied. If only, Lou said, giving her a little smile. Seraphina's right. Nothing is ever going to happen to you. We are going to be together forever, Savannah chimed in. Lilith smiled and picked her up. That's right, Savannah. We'll always be with you, no matter what, she said. That evening they were all excited to see what the news had to say about them. As Lou turned on the TV to Channel 6, a chilling newscast came across the air. A local had been found dead in an alleyway not far from where the Mayweather family lived. Murderers are about as shitty as anyone can go. There are thousands of innocent people that get killed trying to defend this country, and then you got cocksuckers pulling this shit, he screamed, red in the face. Lou, would you calm down? There are kids in the room, Lilith said. They ought to take 'em out of prison and put their sorry asses on the front line and let 'em get their guts shot out. Then maybe this fucking shit wouldn't happen. Seraphina and Savannah had never heard their grandmother scream or their grandfather talk like that. They sat in silence for what seemed like forever until the news broadcast started on the Mayweather sanctuary. Turn it up, Grandpa, we're on, Savannah screamed. They all recognized the news lady at once. It was Daphne. This morning I had the pleasure of visiting the Mayweather Wildlife Sanctuary, and I gotta say that I was amazed by my visit, she said. They all looked at each other and smiled. Lilith was absolutely beaming as Daphne showed a short video of the animals she had taken. I have to say that the most inspiring part is all the hard work that this family puts into something that they love so much, she said. Chapter 3. Over the next several days, Seraphina was all the kids at school talked about. She found her new popularity to be both exciting and bothersome. Most of the students congratulated her for being on TV, but with all the new attention she was getting, there also came a lot of jealousy. 2 girls on the cheer squad were less than thrilled for her. She's only on TV because of what happened to her mom, Seraphina heard one of them say at lunch one day. Yeah, she thinks she is so special, but she's just a whiny little know-it-all, the other one said. Don't listen to Abby and Elsa. They're just pissed off because it's not them, Misty said. Yeah, forget 'em, Dawn added. Their lives are so pathetic that they got nothing better to do than sit around and talk about other people. Seraphina started to feel a little bit better. You can't let people like that get you down, because if you do, you'll never rise above and beyond the call of duty and prove yourself to be deserving of all the rewards life gives you. Most importantly, you'll never get to show people like Abby and Elsa how wrong about you they are, Misty said. Where'd you learn that one, Misty? Dawn asked, impressed. Well, that's what my parents always told me whenever somebody put me down, Misty replied. You sound like a mom, Misty, but that's starting to make me feel better, Seraphina said, giving her a little smile. Just remember, Seraphina, you're a much better person and a lot more deserving than they'll ever be, Misty said in a reassuring manner. After lunch, Seraphina made her way to her locker and found Logan Dane standing beside it. Hi, Logan. What's going on? She asked him. I was just wondering if you had a sec, he asked. Sure, she replied. I was just wondering if you'd be interested in going to the Florio Steakhouse with me Friday night around 8, he asked. Seraphina stood there dumbfounded. Have I really just been asked out by the most popular boy in school? She asked herself. Yeah, I'll go if you really want me to, she finally said. Sounds great. I'll pick you up around 7:30, Logan said, winking at her as he walked off. Seraphina stood motionless, turning over in her head what had just happened. She couldn't wait to tell Misty and Dawn. Misty and Dawn said together when she told them. You must really have a lucky star, Dawn said. You make the news and get asked out by the hottest boy in school, she said in disbelief. Yeah, I guess so, Seraphina replied, grinning. Before she knew it, Friday had come, and now she was getting ready. 6:45, she said, looking at the clock on her nightstand. She proceeded over to her armoire and pulled out a pearl necklace. I guess tonight's as good as any to wear this, she said to herself. She stared at herself in the mirror. The pearls on the necklace seemed to gleam against her flesh. She had never worn it before because it was the necklace her mother always wore. She had kept it as a memento, never wearing it for fear it might break. She was finishing getting dressed when she heard the doorbell ring. Hello, sir. My name is Logan. I'm here to pick up Seraphina. Logan's familiar voice drifted up to Seraphina's room. Oh, yes, we've been expecting you. Seraphina will be down in just a minute, Lou said. Seraphina, he's here, he called up to her. I'm on my way, she replied. Seraphina made her way downstairs, dressed in black dress pants, a white button-down blouse, and a black blazer to match. You look like a penguin, Savannah giggled. Savannah, Lilith said sternly. Okay, we'll be back later, Seraphina said as they made their way out the door to the fancy Lamborghini sitting in the driveway. Oh my God, Logan, we're going in a Lamborghini? She said in awe. Yep, a star needs to ride in a star's car, Logan declared. Seraphina's grandma stood at the door and yelled after them. Now, Seraphina, I want you to have a good time, but I want you home no later than 10. Is that understood? She declared. Okay, Grandma, I promise, Seraphina replied. Wow, I'm in shock that I'm riding in a car for celebrities, Seraphina said as they drove away. Yeah, that's kinda how I felt when my dad first got me his car, Logan replied. You're one very lucky guy, Logan, Seraphina said. Yes, I am, he replied. 15 minutes later, they pulled up in front of a large building with blue and purple spotlights flashing across it. Near the top of the building, the words Florio Steakhouse were illuminated in bright red letters. Well, here we are, Logan said, getting out and opening her door for her. Oh my God, Logan, this place is beautiful. I can only imagine what the inside looks like, Seraphina said. A large color-changing waterfall sat in the center of the plaza. "Wow, it's beautiful," Seraphina said, admiring it. Just as Seraphina had guessed, the inside was very fancy. Large fancy crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. A fancy sports bar stood off to the left. Large deer heads lined the walls. A smiling young girl of about 16 led them to a booth at the back of the restaurant. The booths were made out of pure leather, and the tables were made out of what appeared to be a very fancy oak. "Your server will be right with you," the girl said, as she laid 2 menus in front of them. 5 minutes later, a tall, blonde-haired girl came up to their table. "Logan, haven't seen you in a while," she said. "Hey, how's it going, Jennifer?" Logan asked, standing up to give her a hug. Working here to save up for my wedding," she replied. "Oh, you're getting married? Well, congrats," he replied. "Well, thank you. We're both married on April 17th. We're getting married on April 17th. And the funny thing is that it falls on both of our birthdays." "Wow, a day to remember," Logan said. "Anyway, who's this lovely young lady?" she asked. "Oh, this is my date, Seraphina." "Hi, it's nice to meet you," Seraphina said, shaking Jennifer's hand. "It's nice to meet you too, dear. You really got a good boy here, so take good care of him," Jennifer said, giving Logan a wink and a smile. "Now, can I start you off with something to drink?" "Yeah, Miller Lite," Logan joked. "Don't you wish? Why don't you ask again in about 5 years?" Jennifer laughed. "Dr. Pepper," Logan said. "Mellow yellow, please," Seraphina said. "Okay, I'll get those, and you two can look over the menus for another minute," Jennifer said. "She's an old friend of the family," Logan said after she walked away. "God, I bet she makes a killing in tips working at this place," Seraphina said. "Yeah, my dad was the one who actually got her the job here." "Well, that was sweet of him," she replied. A couple of minutes later, the server came back with our drinks. "Now, have you guys decided on what you want?" "Yeah, I want the ribeye well done, please," Logan said. "And I want the steak and lobster platter," Seraphina said. "Okay, it'll be out shortly," Jennifer said. "So you live with your grandparents?" Logan asked. "Yeah, I've lived with them since I was 8. "So were your parents unable to take care of you?" he asked. "No, actually, my parents are dead," she replied. Logan's eyes went wide in surprise. "I'm sorry, I didn't know," he said. "It's fine," she replied. "So how did they die, if you don't mind me asking?" My dad, Blaine, was killed in a motorcycle wreck, and my mom was murdered several years ago," Seraphina said. They pulled back up at Seraphina's house about 11:15. "You sure your grandparents won't be mad that you're late?" Logan asked. "Nah, they'll be fine," Seraphina reassured him. Logan walked her to the door and gave her a kiss on the cheek. "Good night," he said. "Night," she replied. As Seraphina made her way inside, she found her grandmother sitting at the kitchen table, waiting for her. "Seraphina, I thought I told you to be home no later than 10, she said. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I was having such a good time that I lost track of time," she said. "Be that as it may, I gave you a specific time to be home, so you're going to spend the next 2 weeks at home." "You've got a lot of work to do," Lilith replied. "You mean you're going to ground me?" Seraphina asked. "Yes, ma'am. I told you to be home by 10. Maybe next time I let you go somewhere or do something, you'll follow my orders," Lilith said. "But that's not fair," Seraphina cried. Not fair? Not fair that I'm trying to keep you safe and know where you are at all times? Look at how many people get their throats cut for $1, Lilith replied. "I was safe, Grandma," Seraphina protested. "I had no way of knowing that. Now go up to your room," Lilith snapped. Seraphina stomped angrily up the stairs to her room and slammed the door. The weekend dragged by. Seraphina spent all of her time doing chores. Saturday evening, Savannah found her cleaning the bathroom. "Hey, Seraphina, Grandma's taking me to the movies. Do you want to go?" "Oh, wait, I forgot. You pissed Grandma off, and now you're stuck at home doing boring chores," she mocked. "You better not let Grandma hear you use language like that, or you will be right in here doing boring chores with me," Seraphina said. "Yeah, right," Savannah said, rolling her eyes. "Anyway, have fun cleaning house, and I'll be sure to bring you a candy bar back." Savannah laughed as she walked out of the room. The following Monday, the school was decorated in black banners. "Hey, Misty, what's going on?" Seraphina asked as she ran to catch her before class. "Oh, you haven't heard?" Misty asked. "No, what are they doing? Preparing for a Halloween party?" "No, this is actually a memorial." "For who?" "Brandy Teal. She committed suicide over the weekend," she said. "What?" Seraphina replied in shock. "Didn't you hear about it on TV?" Misty asked. "No, I'm grounded for another 12 days for coming in late on Friday night." "Bummer," Misty said. "So how did she do it and why?" Seraphina asked. "No one really knows why, but she had been having a lot of family problems. Her dad is a pothead alcoholic, and her entire family are nothing but drug-dealing lowlifes." "Oh my God, that's awful," Seraphina replied. "Yeah, her mom found her in bed dead Sunday morning. Apparently she had took a handful of oxycodone late Saturday evening and checked out," Misty said. "That's awful. I can't imagine being in a position where the only way out is death," Seraphina said. "Just hope to God you never are," Misty said. "I do. I really do," Seraphina replied. "And the girl ended it just like that?" Lilith said as Seraphina finished telling her the story. "Yeah, that's what I heard. Nobody would talk about it much, though," Seraphina said. "Oh, that poor little girl. Now do you see why I worry so much, Seraphina? You're so blessed and have so much to live for, so please, don't ever take that for granted," Lilith said. "I know, Grandma, and I want you to know that I'm so grateful for everything I've been given," Seraphina replied. Chapter 4. That night, Seraphina lay in bed. Her mind kept going back to the girl who killed herself. Poor Brandy. I can't even begin to imagine having to kill yourself to be free of your problems. I'm so fortunate that I have loving grandparents. I may not have parents of my own, but Lou and Lilith treat me and Savannah like we were their own," she thought. "I don't know what I would do if anything ever happens to them." Over the next couple of weeks, Seraphina spent most of her time with the animals. One Saturday afternoon, she was sitting at the hyena habitat when Savannah came running up to her. "What are you doing, Seraphina?" she asked. "Watching these hyenas crush rawhide bones like they're candy," Seraphina replied. "Animals are so fascinating. It's unreal the power that some of them have. What are you up to?" "I was bored, so I thought I would come see what you were doing," Savannah replied. "Hey, Savannah, do you ever think about Mom?" Seraphina asked. "Yeah, sometimes I wonder what she was really like. But since I was only 2 when Mommy died, I don't think about her as much as you," Savannah replied. "Ever since I heard about Brandy, I can't get my mind off of Mom," Seraphina said. "Why?" Savannah asked. "Because that girl had a really hard family life, and from what I can remember about Mom, she was always giving and loving and just a wonderful woman. And even though she's gone, I just can't help but feel so lucky and blessed," Seraphina said. Savannah stared thoughtfully at her. Me too, she said. I feel really blessed too, because I have the greatest grandparents in the world and the most amazing big sister ever. Seraphina smiled and wrapped her in a hug. Just then Lilith came walking up to them. Now that's what I call sisterly love, she said. Grandma, can I ask you something? Savannah asked. Of course, dear. You can ask me anything, Lilith replied. What was Mommy like? The question took Lilith completely by surprise. Well, sweetheart, your mother loved you both very much and wanted to give you two everything. Why would someone want to kill her? Oh, baby, I don't know. It was just some mean person who had no feelings and didn't care about the people they hurt. Is it true that Mommy's killer was never caught? Savannah, baby, let's talk about something else, okay, baby? Lilith replied quickly. Okay, Grandma, Savannah replied. Are you girls hungry? I could go order a pizza, Lilith said. I want pepperoni, Savannah cried. Is that good with you, Seraphina? Lilith asked. Huh? Oh, yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Grandma, Seraphina replied as she snapped out of her thoughts. Okay, I'll go place the order and you girls can pick out a movie, Lilith said. You go pick a movie, Savannah, and I'll be in a few minutes, Seraphina said. Okay, Savannah cried, jumping up and running back to the house. Seraphina sat in silence, watching the hyenas for several minutes. Animals don't murder. For them, it is survival of the fittest, but for humans, some will just kill for their own personal joy, she thought. Back in the house, Savannah had already picked out several Disney princess movies. Oh, joy, another Prince Charming movie, Lou declared. What do little girls like you find so interesting about a dorky guy with a cape and a horse, Lou teased Savannah playfully. Come on, Grandpa. Sleeping Beauty is one of my all-time favorites, Savannah said. Yeah, Grandpa, get with the times. Every little girl thinks they're going to grow up and live in a castle and marry Prince Charming, Seraphina joked. Lou laughed. I guess you're right, dear. I remember when you were into this stuff too. Yeah, but that was a long time ago, right? Seraphina protested playfully. Not so long ago, dear, Lou replied. They all laughed. That night, around 3:30 in the morning, Seraphina was on her way downstairs to get a drink when something outside the window caught her eye. It was a person standing underneath the streetlight. The person's face was completely covered beneath a large black hat. What the hell? Who the hell is that standing out there at 3:30? She asked herself. Suddenly, fear began to fill her body. Grandpa, come here quickly, she cried out, her voice petrified with fear. What's going on? Lou asked, startled as he burst out of his room. Grandpa, there's somebody outside, Seraphina replied. Somebody outside? He asked, puzzled. Yeah, look, he's under the streetlight, Seraphina said. Don't worry, I'll take care of this, Lou replied as he walked back into his room and came back out carrying a .357 Magnum. Lou slowly raised the window and sent a bullet flying at the figure. The sound shook the entire house. The figure took off running full blast down the driveway as Lilith came running out of the room. What was that? She cried. We had someone hanging around outside, but it's okay, though. I scared him off, Lou said. Who would be standing outside our house at this hour? Lilith asked, with worry in her voice. It was probably just some punky teenager up to no good, Lou said. It's okay, dear. They're gone now. Let's go back to bed, Lou said, leading Lilith back toward their room. The following morning, Lou was on the phone with the police describing the previous night's escapade. I don't know. I couldn't see his face, Seraphina heard Lou say as she walked into the kitchen. There was really a bad man trying to break in our house, Savannah asked. No, honey, they weren't trying to break in. They were just sneaky. probably looking to see if we had anything outside that they could steal, Lilith replied. I don't want you to be afraid. Your grandpa's on the phone with the police, and they're going to be keeping a watch for people like that. But the main thing is there's nothing to be afraid of, she said reassuringly. The police seem to think it was just some punk teenager up to no good, Lou said after he got off the phone. But why were they just standing there under the streetlight? If they didn't want to be seen, they should have hid in the shadows. It's almost like they wanted us to know they were out there, Serafina said. It's almost like they were trying to spy on us. No, it was just some punk. But let's not talk about this in front of Savannah, Lilith replied. Now why don't you girls go outside and play? It's a beautiful fall morning. Serafina and Savannah made their way outside. The sun was shining, and there was a cool autumn breeze in the air. You want to throw a frisbee? Serafina asked. Yeah, sounds good, Savannah replied. I think we got one around back, Serafina said, as she made her way around to the back of the house. Suddenly, she let out a high-pitched scream. What's wrong? Savannah screamed, running around to the back of the house. Serafina had collapsed on the ground with tears in her eyes, staring straight ahead. There, hanging from a rope, dangling from the gutter, was a skinned coyote. Go get Grandpa, Serafina screamed. Oh my God, who the hell did this? Lou screamed. Lilith immediately broke into tears. It's definitely one of our coyotes. It's been skinned, Serafina said. The question is, how did they get it out of the enclosure without being attacked? We've got like 10 in that fence. How did they not tear whoever did this up? Lou, go call the police, Lilith screamed. Serafina slowly began to approach the hanging creature. God, that is so nasty, she cried in disgust. It looks like whomever did this stabbed it in the stomach, she said, noticing a large slit in the creature's belly region. Serafina grabbed a PVC pipe and began to prod at it. Can you tell, Serafina? Lilith asked. Yeah, it's definitely been stabbed several times in the stomach. There's multiple knife marks, she said. With one final prod, the creature's entire insides fell out and hit the ground. Blood sprayed all over Serafina as the animal's small intestines fell onto her feet. Shit! She screamed, stumbling over and puking everywhere. Lilith and Savannah screamed in horror. Oh my God, Serafina muttered, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. Suddenly something in bright red letters caught her eye. The word soon was written on the back door in the animal's blood. Soon? What the hell does that mean? Serafina asked in disgust. What do you think, Grandma? You still think this was just some teenage punk? Serafina asked sarcastically. God, I don't know, Lilith replied, her voice full of fear. A few minutes later, the chief of police, as well as Channel 6 News, arrived. And that is the end of the first 4 chapters, guys. If you like this video, if you like the story so far, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below in the section. And yeah, I will be continuing very shortly. So thanks again for taking the time to listen. It really means a lot to me. Any questions about this story, I will be happy to answer. So yeah, thanks again. Stay frosty.